Hello, welcome
Hey,
to
it
FF Uncensored.
smells really good in here. Aaron heated up a well-made meal, and it smells very good in my office.
Do you
Makes
know
me
which one
hungry.
which one she made?
Kind of smells like one of the enchilada ones. That's a good-looking cup you
Okay,
got there.
thanks.
All right, today everyone, welcome. We are talking about booze. We're talking about the juice and potentially the gin. But I'm not really a big gin fan. I'm not a huge Pine Needles fan. But if it's a Negroni or
Um,
something like that, maybe. But
but Hendrix gin is infused with cucumber, so it doesn't have that piney taste.
interesting. Didn't know that.
Yeah, so
Still probably won't try it. But thanks.
okay.
But if I do need gin, that's the one to go for, I guess. Is that?
I don't no, I don't like gin either, but I did have to. So I worked for a beverage distributor for a little hot
Hmm.
minute, and we used to have to do taste testing of new products. And when Hendrix came out, we got to taste test it. I promise you, there is not a time of day that gin tastes good, but at 8 a.m., definitely not the time.
All right, everyone. It's 8 a.m. Get your shot glasses. Did you taste it and then spit it out? Or were you the taste and swallow?
No, I spit it out because I
You
did
were
not. I don't like gin.
the fake spit out? All right. So we're getting buzzed on suds on some backcountry roads. All right. So let's talk about alcohol and how it may or may not fit into what you are trying to do. And I think this is a really relevant topic just because this time of year with holiday parties and like people may be indulging a little bit more than what they normally would. But I think there are some ways around, like if you don't want to participate, you don't need to, but I think you can still participate, if you know what I mean, in a way that maybe isn't participating. Because much of alcohol, much of all of the connotations around it is typically around a social structure, right? We're utilizing it in social settings as a way to hang out with people, right? And so, but maybe you don't always want to drink, and that's cool too. And so, but you want to be there and hanging out, and so sometimes it feels weird if I have like a bottle of water. Um, on a fun side note, kind of tangent, slight side quest here. When we were in Nashville, you may or may not have heard of a product called Death Water. Very popular in the rock and roll community. But what we noticed was most of the people that were singing, if they weren't drinking, I mean, some people would drink while they were like, they'd have a beer or something while they're singing. Everyone else had these cans of Death Water. And if you've never heard of it, just Google it quick because you'll need a visual on what it looks like. But it's basically like a tall boy, like a 16-ounce can, but it's water.
Not all of them, but yes.
Like that, how they came to be was water. Like that was their flagship product. But they have other things now. But everyone on stage was drinking Death Water, and it was like it comes in like a case, kind of like a case of beer, and they're these big cans, and like people would be drinking it. And so when they were drinking it, though, you wouldn't really know that it was water unless you knew that it was like unless you knew the brand, because the branding is very like heavy metal, rocky. It had kind of like almost like a Miller Lite type of can to it. It was like kind of an off white with some blue, and so it was like it's an interesting concept. And we looked up the company's worth like $1 billion or something crazy. And it's really just canned water. It's water in a can. That's what, like, Ashley could have made this company in Mississippi from her well on her property. Like it's water in a can. That's what it is. Water in a can and a brand.
And awesome branding. They really do have some awesome branding. They do have some flavored waters. They did go to teas and like drinks. So they have like a not your grand, like you guys should look at the branding for the teas that they made, because the teas that they made, they branded awesome. It's like not your grandma's teas. And it's like these old, like there's a commercial. You guys should watch it. I was actually just talking about it at the gym with my clients. I like the water. The water is really good and doesn't have, like, you guys know how some plastic bottle water doesn't have good, but I have bought Death Water. We keep it at the house. I have notoriously bought it out on the boat, so no one makes a comment about me drinking water all day long.
Because it looks like, it looks like a beer. It looks like a 16-ounce beer. Like that's what it looks like. It's a can. Water doesn't come in a can, right? Water is always in plastic bottles.
And if you put it in a koozie, no one has a clue.
Right. And so, like, and this is a lot of what we wanted to talk about today is like you still want to participate because you want to be there for the social aspects, but maybe you have some weight loss goals and alcohol isn't helping you kind of move in that, or maybe you've decided to cut back a little bit and
Or
not
you have
do as
performance
much.
goals.
Right.
Like they don't just have to be weightless goals to be like, I need to pay attention to this. Like you could be training for an event or something like
Right.
that, where it affects your performance and how you train the next day.
Right. Or you got to get up the next morning and go get a workout in and you don't want it to be trash. And so you're like, oh, okay. So, I mean, I think that was a really good one. That really opened my eyes to like, okay, cool. This is actually an interesting product that could replace like a can of beer, and not feel weird about it. Right. Not like, hey, I have the bottle of water. It clearly feels like you're still in the mix. Right. Um, Other ones that I really like, if you are out and about, like getting like a glass of like seltzer water and having them put like a lemon or a lime on it, like, and you could put it on the rocks, like, and it's no different than like a vodka on the rocks, gin on the rocks, like any sort of clear alcohol on the rocks. It gives you something to hold, right? Because I think there is something about being in social situations and like having something in your hand. If you're just like the person that's maybe not drinking and you're just kind of like standing there, kind of feels awkward a little bit when everyone else maybe has stuff in their hands. But these are like all things to think about, because like these are like what's going on in your brain kind of subconsciously, and you may actually try and maybe move away from these situations because you don't want to be the awkward person that isn't like, why do I feel awkward? You feel awkward because you're not like holding anything. It doesn't feel like you're participating. And so that can be an easy one if you're going out, just getting like, water on the rocks, essentially, with putting a lime or a lemon on it too, also makes it feel a little bit more fancy. And like a lot of places you go now too, like mocktails are becoming like a thing, especially if you're at nicer places. But it's becoming even more mainstream, and they're like good cocktails too. They just like sans the alcohol, right? And so there are options like out
I would
there
also
at this
say the
point.
culture of not drinking is becoming more and more popular. So, like, it is becoming more and more socially acceptable to do activities and not drink and not have other people asking, because it's more common that other people are choosing not to drink with you. Also, like, when you guys go to an event, like, maybe you ask your friend that's going with you and being like, hey, I don't really want to drink tonight. You want to, like, not drink with me. So then you have someone else with you that's not drinking, because more times than not, you probably have a friend or someone else that's going to the event that's really not interested in drinking and is just doing it because everybody else is. But if they had someone in solidarity with them, they might not drink
Mm-hmm.
as well. And I think that can be really powerful, is like finding someone else who's maybe not all that interested in drinking that night. I just signed up to be the
All
designated
right,
driver. Like,
that's an always easy one, right?
mine is I'll drive. Like, and then no one looks at you weird when you're having a drink. Hey, I'll drive. Like, no, and no one fights you on that.
Right.
I don't particularly like to drive at night anymore, but I'll drive so I don't like so then I don't feel that need. I do want to throw another idea out there that has absolutely nothing to do with alcohol, but like, what if we chose activities that you don't have to drink and do?
Yeah.
I know that this is a wild thing that I'm going to toss out in the world for you guys, but like, we could also start doing stuff with our friends and family that doesn't have to involve cocktails or food for that matter. I know depending on what you're struggling with or what you're paying attention to, you could pick activities that you could go to a museum, you could go to a show, you could do other stuff that, maybe the social aspect doesn't revolve around the consumption of anything.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. It's hard, right? That's like there's a lot of situations, office part, like there's things that like alcohol and socialization has just become so intertwined in our like, and there's all this, I mean, there's songs about it, yada yada yada, you know what I mean? Like, and so I think it's just one, understanding that it's a pretty difficult, like, to just get away from it completely. And I think two, really trying to make a decision on what makes the most sense for you. And I was working with a few clients this morning, and we were talking about alcohol, right? And we were kind of bringing it up, and one of the people I was working with was talking about just he wanted to just reduce his consumption, which I think is a very like this isn't about like all or nothing. I think many times it's like, hey, do I just have like random beers, like 3 random beers on like a Tuesday night just because it's Tuesday night and, I have 3 beers? Like, am I actually enjoying those beers? Are those beers providing any value to my life? Are they making it more difficult the next morning? Like, really starting to evaluate our choices a little bit. Not that they're good or bad. Maybe those 3 beers are providing so much joy that like it makes sense to keep those. Right. Or what if you had 2 beers versus 3 beers? Would that actually change the experience at all? And probably a lot of people would be like, probably not, like if I just had one drink and like I just kind of savored it and I had a koozie so it didn't get warm and yada, yada, yada. Right. Like I might be okay because I feel like I get to participate and I don't feel like I have a hangover the next morning. And then understanding how do you react to alcohol? Like I've got friends that like, if they just like, if they like drive by a liquor store, they're like hungover the next morning because like they're just really sensitive, right? They're just really sensitive where even if they have one drink, like they know the next morning that like they something they had a drink, right? Or I mean, you look at their HRV is it's tanked and all the other things where other people can have a couple beers and like they feel fine, right? We metabolize things differently, right? And so I think just understanding and just kind of looking at it with clear eyes as best that you can rather than just falling into kind of quote unquote social norms, which is like really challenging to do. Like peer pressure is like a real like thing, right? Even if you're 45, like it's like you'd think that we would grow out of it as we get older, but we don't. Like let's just be honest. Like it's not that hard. So but and the other thing is like we're starting to come into a world where there are other options too. If you're looking for, I don't want to call it mind altering, but like that's kind of what it is to an extent. But like we have like THC drinks, right, which are becoming very popular. I don't know if I can say this because it's weird, but like there are options like in states where it's legal, and they have different effects, right, than alcohol, and they're metabolized differently. So maybe try something
I
different.
totally did not expect you to go there with this conversation
Well, that
today.
was actually, I mean, all of this is sparked off of like conversations we were having with clients this morning. And like, we were just talking about like alternatives and like what are, like, I'm still looking for a buzz or whatever. Like, cool. Like, there are other ways. Like, there are other ways. Like, you can sit in a sauna, go in a cold plunge, sit in a sauna, go in a cold plunge, sit in a sauna, go in a cold plunge. If you repeat that for about 3 hours, you're going to get to a really weird state. Like, you're getting to a mind altering state, like because of this, all of these change is endorphins and hormones and stuff that's like going on in your body. So meditation, you can get to some weird states with meditation after you do it and get really good at it. So like there's that.
All right, there's that. And that's what Trevor's got.
But like at the end of the day, I think it's just being very conscious about your decisions and not just like, or maybe starting to examine the patterns that you've fallen into. I think we all fall into these patterns. Like we've done it in our house where you just have like a drink every night. And you're kind of like, what, like, do I really need a drink every night? Or is this just now a pattern that we've fallen into and it's just part of a rhythm now? And is that rhythm supporting us? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. Like, but being honest about it.
So I think one of the biggest takeaways that we can all get from today is like, what is our awareness on the choices that we're making and like the frequency that we're making them or in the quantity? Like, are we having cocktails every day? Are we doing a couple every day? Are we just doing it on Tuesday and maybe we should just save it for Saturday? Like, whatever that is, but taking an evaluation and looking at what you're doing and if it's contributing to your life or your goals or where you want to be, and make adjustments accordingly. And this doesn't just have to be for the holidays too. And we're just bringing it up because now is the time where there's just a lot more events and activities going on. But can that awareness help you in the long run with overall where you want to be?
There's that secret to life, awareness.
Really is. Anything else you want to add, Trev?
No, that's it. That was awesome.
All right, guys. Until next time.